Om Shanti, everyone. Welcome to the next normal, our alternative to the lockdown. I can't believe it's been a year since the meditation museums are closed. I'm out. I can't think about it. I never even thought we could last even for 4 or 6 months. And that we've still been going with both of the museums still available to be open when all of this blows over, that we'll be able to have that sacred space to come to. But in the meanwhile, hopefully we've been enjoying coming together intimately here. It's touched my heart so much how you've showed up so real, that we've been able to support each other during this process. There's no doubt that many of us, I don't care how great you are, you could be T.D. Jakes, Oprah Winfrey, or the man next door. Nobody knows what's going to happen after COVID. Everyone's hoping for the best, though. I don't think anyone wants the worst to appear after this. We want the best. So what if you've been living your life and you've just been on your travels? You've gotten yourself educated, you listened to what mom and dad told you, you studied, you've got everything, you're working in a job that is supposed to be the job, waiting to get the marriage and then the kids. And something in your spirit says, wait a minute, isn't there more to it than this? And is the more a spirit call, not just a physical one, but are we really only here to just get up in the mornings, brush our teeth, wash our face, go to work, earn some money, pay our mortgage, our bills, our insurance, and then go to bed at nights? Are we here to just keep wondering when Mr. or Mrs. Right is going to find us and settle ourselves in? Is that really what it's all about? My special guest today say, nope. There's so much more to life than what meets the eye. And she's been kind of breaking through these walls, She's like, I don't want my life to be limited, even though I might not know exactly where I'm going to end up. I don't want to live in a wall. I don't want to live behind a wall. So let me introduce you to Preeti Upala. Preeti Upala is a former investment banker turned thought leader and media entrepreneur based in Hollywood, California. She works as a geopolitical expert, award-winning international columnist, and is the director of the Omnia Institute. She hosts a popular news show called The Preity Experience and is a much sought-after radio and TV commentator on shows around the world. Along with being an author, Preeti is a political analyst, and her work appearing in more than 100 publications, including The Observer, The National Business Standard, Foreign Policy, Times of India. She has spoken at various think tanks and has been a keynote speaker of many global summits. Preeti has received the Young Leader of the Decade Award at the Women's Economic Forum, as well as the Icon of the Year at Promising Indian Foundation. No stranger to adventure, Preeti has visited over 100 countries and imbues her literary and journalistic work with international sensibilities. Her expertise is on foreign policy, U.S.-India relations, South Asian politics. She speaks 5 languages and so much more. Please let me bring on Preeti Upala to the next normal. Preeti, you make some girls just like, come on, girl, could you just slow down so we can get a break?
Namaste, Sister Jenna, and namaste to everyone, your wonderful audience. Such a pleasure and an honor to be on your platform. And thank you for those kind words. I am only here to tell the girls, hey, you can do it too, girl.
Telling you, you know what? I have been wired to not believe that my life is to be limited based on what my parents have told me or what the society tells me. And I don't know if it's the same for you, but do you feel like it's almost as if it's your Dharma, it's like your karma, it's already recorded in you. It's not that you're pushing your way through, or it's not that somebody's telling you need to be this, but it's as if there's a recording in your soul that's saying, no, go here, do it like this. No, it's got to be done like this. Have you had that same feeling?
Absolutely. And that's your inner voice speaking to you when your inner self or your soul, Atman, right, is guiding you, and you must listen to it. But yes, I have always I've had experiences where you're just following life, the script that you think is written for you, but the universe has its own script for you. And when you're lucky enough to have a spiritual awakening, you realize that the universal script for you is the right one, and it's greater than anything you can put together for yourself. And it's not easy, because it might have different timelines and there's different things on the menu than you probably imagined or wanted. But you have to surrender to it, to the divine flow. And there's great peace, satisfaction, and happiness once you do that. But it's a test, because the universe is asking you to trust it, and there's nothing to show for that other than the experience that you're about to have. But you must fully immerse yourself, and trust me, it'll be worth it. And it never gets old, whether you're 20 or you're 50. It's just as exciting, it's just as scary. It's asking you to really have surrender and faith. And you must be brave, actually. It requires a lot of courage to kind of dive into the abyss. But all I can say is that wherever there is the risk, there is the reward. And in my life, certainly I've taken a lot of risks, and I've been rewarded at every turn. So just from that perspective, I recommend people to do it, because it will pay off. There's always a pot of gold at the end.
Beautiful. Well, like your profile says, you are wired for adventure. It's just in your DNA. What do you say to a woman who, let's say, you're beautiful, you're educated, you're not afraid of stepping into the abyss? There's some women who see that and they get intimidated by it. How do you handle when you encounter a woman that you can sense energetically is intimidated by just you? How do you handle them?
That's a great question. It's funny, because I'm involved in several media projects right now that are all, I'm kind of the only female. It's a very heavily male dominated, whether it's politics or sports. And I'm sensing that it's not just the women that are intimidated, maybe the men as well. And I think navigating through men is a little different to navigating through women. I think with the woman, you need to, people get triggered, their insecurities come up. I think with women, unfortunately, it's a little biological, it's subconscious. We have that herd mentality, because, back in the day, one was picked, right? And she would end up having a life and procreation and all of that. We've moved on from that, obviously. However, I think the caveman mentality is still in our mind, and women just have this competitive thing, and it's biological, it's hormonal. It's like, hey, I'm good enough to get this life that I desire, but if you're going to be here, I'm not going to be able to get that with you here. That's why there's that animosity. So I think it's about, you have to disarm them somehow, and that only you can do by making them feel comfortable. And it shouldn't be the case. You shouldn't have to be the one to sort of make somebody else comfortable, but all you can do is try, and you just conduct yourself in a way where they understand that you're beyond what you look like or what you're wearing. And I think in my case, it's with the words that I speak, it's how I speak, what I say. Suddenly the focus is off of anything physical, and they're listening to what I say. And what I say is not about me and my achievements or my life. It's about something completely different. And they shift their focus too, and they follow me where I'm going. And then they realize, oh, she's trying to be a good person, doing something for society. This is something we must support. And they'll understand that their insecurities are projections only. Now with the men, it's different. I think sometimes you do have to maybe be firm and tell them that you won't be sidelined or silenced, and you're here to stay, and you can hold your own, you're confident, and also that you are a feminine, soft, vulnerable person, and you bring that to the table. And it should be a good addition, right? The feminine energy should be a good addition to, say, a room full of men, And ultimately it always works out like that, but maybe in the beginning they're just like, what is this, who is this, so I'm actually, I have to combat both on a daily basis. It's not easy, especially with the male thing. It's not,
Yeah,
because
because
you're, yeah,
I'm sure that you can feel that energy projecting
yes,
on you,
yes,
and then you can sort of intuitively feel it. There's a
yes,
saying that why do I have to dim my light so you can
yes,
shine or feel more comfortable with
yeah,
yourself? Why don't you raise your light? Why don't you
yes,
shine either as bright as I am or even brighter? And I think
yes,
that's such an important next normal that I believe we can move into, is where women in particular really support each other's glory and successes and amazingness. And when it comes on to working with men, that there's really like, I don't need to attack your masculinity. I'm just saying, here's another way that we can look in this. What do you think? And to see how we can find that energy of respect for each other to build this story. We're relearning so much, Preeti. As a result of this pandemic, everybody is learning something about themselves at levels that they never ever thought of. What have you learned as a result of this life reset in the last year? Where have you been going inside of yourself, and what have you been discovering?
amazing question. I've been realizing how, um, the possibilities are unlimited for me, where I can go, uh, the reach that I can have, and where I should go with this. I think pre-COVID I had some projects I was working on, and some aspirations. They were probably some goals. I thought, okay, I can reach here. I'd like to do this, maybe speak here, and I have a book idea and all of that. But last year I got so involved in media engagements and being appearing on many shows and so on. I think I did almost 300. I was doing one almost every day, and I loved it. And I got so many invitations to give lectures, to speak to students, or corporate, groups and stuff about a range of topics actually. And all of that only reinforced that I can affect people at large, big crowds, big numbers. And I realized I should be doing this on a very, very big stage, and go for it. Don't think, no, 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 this event is enough for me. But hey, like, why not go, really reach for the stars? So I think I'm understanding that my own aspirations, I can expand those. Also, yeah, limitless possibilities. Spirit is unlimited. And I think I've enjoyed, maybe, as somebody who travels a lot and is very much out there in the world, this last year has been one where, like most people, I have been at home more, probably last year than the last 10 years put together. So I'm enjoying my domestics. I think I'm more immersed in my space, my living space, which probably I never have ever. So enjoying my home, enjoying my space. I'm redecorating it, beautifying it, getting just more solitude, all of being more intimate with myself in my space. So that sort of stuff is not something I would have imagined myself to like, but I have really liked it. And even when the COVID thing is gone, I think I'm going to continue to just be more connected to my living space, I think, in a way that I probably never did.
I love that. I love hearing that. I think there's something being gifted to us about the value of kind of small things or precious moments of maybe just walking from one room to another room and having a thought or a download of something inspiring, and actually having the time to grab a piece of paper and write that down.
Yes.
Whereas before we were so busy moving and shaking that it just wasn't
Yes.
always so easy. Going back to something that you were sharing about, how much you have done. One of the things that I've noticed is that sometimes we get stuck in being limited, right? Have you ever been in a position, Preeti, where you just felt like, I don't know how I'm going to do this? And when you found yourself there, what did you do to find the courage to break that? And I ask you this really intentionally. There are so many people in the world right now they will package themselves in a box and say, no, I can't do that. That's for you to do. But how do you know? You've not tried. So
Yes.
have you ever been in that position where you weren't sure you could do it, but you did it anyway? What was that energy? What was that thought in you that made you take that step?
I do have an example. I mean, I've had, well, moving here was one such thing where you just have to dive in and take the plunge. But one specific example was the first year when I moved here. I learned about all these film festivals around the world, these fabulous sort of Hollywood film festivals where all the Hollywood community around the world, entertainment community around the world would come and meet and have screenings and award shows and galas and all. It was fabulous, and for the arts, soulful for us as well. And of course, the biggest film festival is the Cannes Film Festival in the south of France. It's very hard to get invited there. It's very expensive. It's all the accommodation is booked up months in advance. Pricey to fly there, stay for several weeks doing your thing. Networking is difficult because if you don't know anyone, how are you going to know where the big events are? So I remember a few months before that, I learned about it and I had a desire to be at that film festival that year. And I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I just sort of kept kind of dreaming and kept hoping and thinking positive. And slowly things happened. And then I actually did something very drastic. I said, look, I don't know how this is going to work out. I don't have a badge. I don't have an official invitation. I don't have accommodation. I don't know anyone there. I've never been to Cannes before. I'm just going to get a ticket to Nice. I think at that point it was just a one-way ticket to Nice. And I'm just going to get myself there with a little suitcase and let's see what happens. And I did that. I bought a one-way ticket to Nice. I think I bought the ticket the day before the festival started. So it was like really last minute. Got it. On the plane, I ended up meeting someone who was also going there, who had this and that. And before I knew it, I was staying to be honest, somebody had an extra suite that they gave me. So I got this beautiful accommodation. Someone had a spare badge that they gave me. Someone knew about all the parties. Someone knew this director, that director. I ended up going to the official dinner, the official closing award show that nobody gets invited to. I walked the red carpet. These photographers, they didn't know who I was. They thought I was some superstar, and I was there. I appeared in the newspapers and all of that. So all of this happened just because I got myself there. If I had been scared of how is this going to work out, I would have never bought that flight. I mean, who does that? Who flies not having any place to go to when they land? Well, I did that, and it completely paid off. But I went with my gut at every turn. And there were some things I didn't go because they didn't feel right. But most of the things were in very, very, the universe was definitely looking out for me. So that's a great example, actually, of how things really worked out. And I ended up staying for 6 weeks instead of 2 weeks. And then I traveled to the rest of Europe and made friends and had quite many adventures. And now I go every year for about a month.
Oh, I love it. I love Nice. I remembered driving from Nice to Monaco, and you know that drive on the where you're overlooking the Mediterranean.
I prefer to drive or take a train sometimes. Yeah,
that's one of the most gorgeous places on the planet Earth. So I get that. So you says, well, who does what you did? Preeti Upala does that, and she's just like, well, why not? Let's just give it a try. I think sometimes we hold ourselves back just because of the thoughts, You had the thought, okay, but then that thing that just drove you, well, just get the ticket. One way, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
And just to have just those quality of thoughts supporting what you think is that vision that wants to welcome you, in itself is the means of unstucking you. And I believe in the impossible becoming possible. And some of the things that really gets to me, and my whole team and family member knows, is when they come to me and say like they can't do something. I go, what? There's just no way it's possible. We can do anything we put our minds to. And I think we are at that particular point where we're being invited to think the impossible and know that it will be possible. And it really starts with just a thought and a belief system inside of you. Have you ever been afraid, Preeti, of anything? And if you were, how did you overcome it?
Interesting. Funnily enough, I wasn't afraid when I moved here from Sydney to LA. Very similar. It was another one-way ticket that I bought and landed here. To be honest, I did not have accommodation either. So none of that fazed me. I think what fazed me more was actually when I was much more established here, and there were projects that were presented to me, and having to say no to them for whatever reason, or being involved in a collaboration and realizing, oh, this is much more problematic than I realized. Hollywood is a very difficult place. You deal with a lot of egos, and there are a lot of sharks out here. And unfortunately, there are too many times when you will be in conflict with whether it's your agent or manager or another director or another actor, let's say. And that's happened for sure. And it's not fun. And I think it's not fun when you realize that the only way to end this is to part ways. So that's happened many times. Another difficult point, I think, for me was I had a book idea and I started writing a particular book, and then realizing that there is another book instead that needs to be written first through me. And at this point, I even had a publisher who was interested, and there was a contract on the table, and sort of having the courage to not sign it and take a chance with the other book that you don't really know where it's going to go, but you just think that it's a good idea that could work. I think that takes courage. It's very unsettling because you think this is a good opportunity here, and I'm going to give this up for a really uncertainty and something completely unknown that may not work out at all. That's tricky. And so that happened not that long ago, but I made that choice, and I'm glad I did. I know it's going to work out in the end. I have a lot of conviction. I think it's that conviction that has taken me around the world fearlessly to do things. So I have to have conviction also in my creative projects, to know I'm going to work with this person, I'm going to work with this brand, with this company, this upstart, because it feels right. And your instinct will guide you. Your intuition will tell you this person is not someone you want to trust. This brand is probably not someone you want to be associated with. So you have to follow it, even though they may be saying nice things. People always want to build a pipe dream here. Every meeting you have here in Hollywood is always, oh, this is going to be the biggest thing since sliced bread. And it never is. It never even takes off the ground half the time. And you've ended wasting a lot of time and energy.
I can't believe that people still use that line. I mean,
they do all the time.
It just makes no sense. Yeah. I've heard it over and over again because everyone loves, the energy field and how many folks we're connected with. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's great. How are you peaceful? Are you pure? Are you happy? That's what I'm interested in before we actually go to see who we can find to be a best fit for you. Being educated as you are and a lover of the academics, you're also into the arts. Whether it's modeling, whether it's movies or television. In the industry of television and movie, especially when you have to go for an audition, you get a lot of rejections. And sometimes you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm perfect for this part. What's wrong with these people? This person has a problem. How do you handle rejection, especially for a young girl out there who might be wanting to get into the entertainment industry and might not be aware of how that rejection can really hurt them at a deep level that actually makes them do or make decisions that might not be healthy for them down the road? How do you handle rejection and how do you rise above it?
Yeah, that's a big prevalent problem in our industry. And I came from a academic and a corporate background, so I'm sort of a, like a fish out of water. In a way, it's good. This is all very new to me, and the way that I approach Hollywood and auditions even was very different from actors who studied acting in school. They have a degree, they've been doing it since they were 10. They were completely immersed in that industry, and they have been rejected forever. Many much more experiences of that. For me, my spiritual kind of philosophy on this is, there will be roles with your name on it, and nobody can take that away from you. I truly believe that. And even in my life, many roles I have won, let's say, that it was meant for me. And when you look at the great stars, you look at the greatest performances, nobody else could have done it. And it had their name on it. They obviously auditioned, they got it, and they performed, and they delivered, and we can now enjoy their beautiful performances. So you have to trust that there is the right role out there for you. Also, this is the time when you have to be, maybe you can't personalize it. Your performance might have been great, but maybe they were looking for red hair and you had black hair. It might have been something very mundane. It's not about you or your performance. It's about something that has nothing to do with you and something that you can't control. And often casting decisions are made like that. It's like, we need short hair, she has long hair, I don't think she wants to chop it off is too much work. Let's just get the other person who had short hair and they were sort of almost the same level at the audition, so they go with that. So it has nothing to do with you. You have to not personalize it. And I think as a young woman, especially, when you get a lot of rejections, you can't think something is wrong with me. What can I change? Can I change my nose? Can I change my hairstyle? Because this ain't working. No, because you'll change it, and trust me, it still won't work. And then there'll be something not quite real about you, and people know when you've had something done and it doesn't look right. And honestly, nobody wants that on camera. You will never get a gig if you noticeably have had something done. And a lot of young actors don't realize that. They think, if I could just change this one thing about my physical appearance, like, it never works. It looks so odd, and then it's too late by the time you've gone through it.
Preeti, I have to tell you, we have another show that we've been doing with Bridging India and America, and
yes.
In talking to or researching some of the celebrities in Bollywood and stuff, I was very surprised to see how much adjustments have been made in terms of their features. And there are some that I have observed and seen, and I've say, wow, they're flawless, they're perfect, and yet they've made adjustments. And I've said to myself, is it something inside of the soul that doesn't feel that it's beautiful, that doesn't just feel it? And I would love to know, what are some of the tips that you apply to take care of your inner world? What are your self-care tips that, despite if your hair looks like a Rasta man, no pun intended to the Rastafarians out there, but however it is, but when Preeti looks in the mirror, I mean, she's in a place inside of her soul and she sees that part of her that's the real beauty. How do you serve that part? What are some of the tips that you can leave us with to serve that inner beauty?
Oh, that's a beautiful question again. And yes, I must say, Bollywood today, they have as much work done on themselves as much as Hollywood, if not more. And it's very sad that Bollywood actors and actresses feel the need to maybe look more like Hollywood stars. Or something different. And in fact, Hollywood is becoming more simple, more plain, less makeup. When you look at European movies, they're very, like French movies especially, they're very like au natural, right? It's so even the big stars wear no makeup on screen, which is beautiful. I find that quite attractive, and the Scandinavian movies are like that too, because there's nothing like natural beauty. And Indian women, they're so beautiful, especially the actors. They shouldn't be doing that and overdoing it with cakes of makeup and stuff like that. But I think industry is telling them something. the studios and the directors are telling them something, I'm not even sure if it's working, because a lot of these big budget movies in Bollywood have flopped, completely flopped in the last few years, and it's the little independent movies with no-name actors that have done very well. So I think Bollywood needs to wake up a little bit on that front, because nobody wants to see the fakeness anymore. We want to go back to the oldies, the 70s, the 50s, 60s, 70s, when it was so natural. For me, let's see, I think nothing is more beautiful than a beautiful smile. And I think if you make eye contact with someone and you smile at them beautifully, anyone will be affected, anyone will be flattered and touched. And both men and women don't do it enough. I can tell you that around the world they don't do it, but definitely in America they don't. So as I travel, I always look at people and smile, and they are so affected by it. And even here at home as well. So we all have to do that. Even I've gotten into the habit of being so busy with my life that I forget to be very present sometimes. And you have to remind yourself, the smile is the most beautiful weapon. It can make anyone, no matter what you look like, it can make you look like $1,000,000 if it's a beautiful smile from your heart. And you can tell the difference when it's authentic and when it's not. So I think definitely smile, be happy, have that sort of come from love, and it doesn't matter what you look like, but if you're emanating love, and you're just a good person trying to be good, caring about the world, people see that. It's very attractive. And I would say get sleep, be hydrated, simple things like that. Take care of yourself, love yourself, forgive yourself, be kind, eat well. Obviously, I'm a vegetarian. A vegetarian diet is very good for the body and the skin, of course. And the less you smoke and do all of those chemical, concoctions, because they do affect your skin. So I think the best beauty tips are free, and they are actually very simple, but people won't do them because it sort of takes a lot of mind power to sort of go ahead and do it. So those are my tips for the girls.
Beautiful, beautiful tips. Love them all. As we wind down our wonderful conversation together and we come to a close, when you look inside of yourself and you do see the spark of light that you are, and I'm sure you've tapped into the possibility of its potential, expanding even more. And then you look at your environment and it seems kind of just smaller than what you keep thinking or what you keep seeing. But knowing that that's a part of the journey, that's a stepping stone to it. Have you ever found yourself turning towards God to sometimes just keep you grounded and keeping you like right there where you need to be before it all explodes even bigger for you? Like have you kept a very intimate, private relationship with the divine? I ask you that question because I think it's so important for the Shakti, for the woman out there who has to have that special spiritual factor as she goes into the jaws of the lion, that light just protects her. And there was someone who sent me a message about how they were lauding over their wife because he was saying that, she's the backbone to how successful he has become. But the irony is she's 10 times more successful than he is. And so I was thinking, well, who's her backbone? And then I remembered it coming up that, well, God's my backbone. That's where I get all my powers from. And so can you answer that for me? Like, what's that intimate, private connection that you have between you, the soul, and God? What's that?
That's beautifully questioned, I would say. And that relationship between you, your soul, and the divine is, I think, the most beautiful relationship, the most important relationship that anyone will ever have. Yet it's the one relationship that most people don't even know exists, and very few people actually engage in. When you get on your spiritual path, you will realize that such a relationship does exist and how important it is. because I started on this journey when I was very, very young, I'm very lucky from a very young age, from very early 20s, I would say. I had this strong relationship, strong conviction, and I mean, my parents are pretty spiritual. I would even maybe say they're religious, you know, traditionally, and they always, my whole life, whole childhood, they kept our traditions. They, you know, our stories, our mantras, our chanting was very important to us because we grew up in Middle East. We grew up in places that didn't necessarily allow for other faiths, but in our homes and in our hearts, our traditions were kept alive. And that's why I grew up with this great sense of understanding, of hearing, or, you know, all the celebrating all the festivals and all of that, and also going to all the temples eventually when we were living in Australia. But it's during my own journey, when I got on to my journey, that I realized how precious it is. And you know, when you meditate, I think you do speak, but I think you listen, because they always say that prayer is speaking to God and meditation is listening. That's very true. I think the more you do that, and also what I've learned is the angels are out there around you. They're always there. They're here to help you. You have to ask the universe for assistance. You have to ask the divine for assistance because they're here to give it to you. Don't feel that you have to go at it alone. I think a lot of people, even on the spiritual path, think that this is such a solo journey and it's a tough journey. I don't know where the light is at the end of the tunnel. Why am I going down this path? And it's hard. But just trust that the universe is here for you, and it will send you the people and events along your path to make everything just right. And if you ask for the universe to put you where you need to be, trust me, it will. And you have to let go. You have to surrender. So it's a learning process. You know, your whole life, I think you get slowly better at it. Even I'm learning to surrender more, and I know there's much more surrender to be had. And more magic to be had as well. So I'm very excited. I think I'm at an interesting point in my life where maybe my idea of why I had moved to Los Angeles has changed, because I feel like there's much bigger callings, but there is a Hollywood component to it as well. And there are other things as well. And I think all of that is going to manifest magically in a very big way for me very soon. So very exciting and a little bit unknown. I don't know how all of this is really going to explode for me, but I think it will. I get a sense it will. And I just need to just enjoy the journey.
Another adventure just waiting for you, right? Just around the corner.
Yeah.
Preeti, Upala, thank you so much. What's the best website that folks can learn more about your work?
Oh, thank you so much. I am very active on social media. You can find me on Twitter, on Instagram. It's the Preeti Effect, and I have my own channel called the Preeti Experience on YouTube, and I have my podcast. But I do have a specific website just for my show, which is called www.thepreetiexperience.com. If you go there, you'll get my bio, and I'm gonna upload all of my content there soon. But the site is live, so please go there. I'm on Facebook. As well, LinkedIn is just Preeti Üpala. So please do find me. My work can be, you can Google my name and articles and videos. And preetiupala.com will also be live soon. So eventually there are many ways to get in touch with me. So please do. I love hearing from people.
Everyone, I hope you've enjoyed our time together with Preeti Üpala. I'm sure this is a conversation that you'd like to play back over and over again, because you would have missed something and you're going to want to go back to it and say, oh, what did you say? Oh, yeah, that was great. That was great. Thank you all for the time that you've invested in listening to the both of us. And may something that came out of today's conversation really injected you with some extra light and insight and power. You know, that's the reason why we do this every night, is that we just end up better versions of ourselves. There's so much potential in us. There's so much good. There's so much good and purity and peace in each and every one of us. If we can just stop getting distracted and listening to those vibrations that are just so, not inspiring. I think we need to break that addiction to negative stories, negative news. And something that I'm taking away that Preeti was sharing, when it comes on to rejection, don't take things so personal. It's that taking things personally that can just really sabotage all those emotions in you and just break you into a million pieces. The next normal is not about a weak emergence of our personality. The next normal is about you coming into your own right and your own power and your own beauty, and not being ashamed of whatever that it needs to be. That it could be something that looks really grand in front of the world, or it could be something that's really grand within your family. Don't underestimate it. Remember, no one can take away your happiness unless you give them permission, and we really are here to practice loving each other the same. Thank you for tuning in to The Next Normal. I'll see you again tomorrow. Lots of love, lots of light, and a big Om Shanti. Take care.